I hadn't slept for months. I heard a loud, crazy scream. No one heard it. I was the only one. Things that felt like demons were coming out of my mouth. Suicide is a solution because nothing else is working. If you haven't slept for a long period of time, you know how exhausting and draining that can be. I remember when I hadn't slept for months, literally months. I had tried everything I could. I got everybody's advice. I got everybody's remedy. I went to the doctor. I did everything I knew to do and nothing was working. If you identify with this, if you are in a place where you're like, I've tried everything and I'm exhausted, I'm always tired, I'm not sleeping, today's story time is for you. And my hope is that today's episode brings you the hope that you need, that healing is possible, that you can go to sleep peacefully and soundly, even without medication, because that's my story. The crazy thing is, growing up, I never had a problem going to sleep. In high school, I would go to school, come back, take like a 2-hour nap, get up, spend the rest of my day doing whatever, and then go back to sleep. No problems whatsoever. Like, none at all. And then one day in college, this was during my sophomore year, I was staying up at night like people usually do, doing whatever. I don't know what I was doing. I was doing something. And, at the end of my staying up, I tried to go to sleep and I couldn't sleep. So I didn't think anything of it. I was just like, oh, rough night. I'll get up and I'll do whatever, all the stuff I need to do. And then I'll try going to sleep again. And, I'm sure I'll sleep. So I wasn't worried. And so I went about my day. And then that night I tried to sleep again. I couldn't sleep. And so I was like, okay. But again, I wasn't worried. I was like, rough night again, but I'll probably sleep again. I'll get up and do stuff. So I got up and by the way, I had energy. So I think I wasn't worried because I still had energy. Like I was still functioning. I still had energy. I still felt good. So I was like, okay, I still feel good. I know what's going on, but I'll fall asleep again. Again, I had no reason to think there was a problem because I had never had a problem before. I always stayed up. Like I didn't have a problem. So again, the second night, I didn't sleep. The third night, I still didn't sleep. So I was like, okay, I was starting to get worried. I was like, what's going on? Right? So, but my worry wasn't enough for me to be anxious or start start panicking. I was just like, I'm sure it'll come. So I started joking about it. Like I started like, oh, look, I'm not sleeping. I didn't sleep for 3 days. How, I thought it was a game because I was worried a little bit after 3 days, but not really because I just knew sleep would come. Like a thought never came in my mind like, girl, this is a problem. I just thought when I knock out, I'm about to sleep so good. That's what I thought. And then the 4th day and then the 5th day and all that, I was not sleeping. Like I would close my eyes, but I could tell I'm not asleep. And so I was like, okay, this was when real worry started setting in. I was like, something is wrong. Something is wrong because I'm not sleeping. And so I'm worried. I'm calling my friends. I'm calling my family. I'm trying to see if I can get some advice, something. Somebody give me some advice, give me something to help me. And so different people would give me different remedies. I would go online. I would try to find all these different things and nobody's advice was working. Remedies weren't working. So I was like, what is actually going on? In the middle of me trying to figure it out, a friend of mine from high school wanted to visit. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna plan something cute. Like, we gonna figure something out. Mind you, I'm still like going through these sleeping issues and feeling tired. And so in the middle of me trying to plan what we're gonna do, again, I was in college, so they had an event. I don't know what the event was. It was during October, Halloween time. So my school, whatever the event that we had, they invited a psychic as a part of the event. And so now, let me backtrack. I grew up in church. I grew up in a Christian household. And not just a Christian household. I grew up in a Christian household that knew that we do Jesus and only Jesus, and knew that there was an enemy, and was aware of the supernatural realm. So I knew we don't do that. That is going to open doors. I was well aware of that. And for some reason, when I went to college, I should also say, I grew up in church. I went to church all the time. I grew up in a Christian household. But when I went to college, I also kind of stopped going to church. Not kind of, I did. I stopped going to church. I stopped reading my Bible. I stopped doing all the things because I was in school and I was trying to live it up, like college students do. So I was trying to do that. And so this is my sophomore year, and I hadn't been to church. I wasn't reading my Bible. I wasn't living for God. And so this friend came over, and I think that's why, because I had been far from God, the thought of going to a psychic, it didn't scare me at the time. And I remember a friend of mine, when she heard that I was going to a psychic, she was like, I don't think that's a good idea. And she was advising me. She was like, I don't think you should do that. And I was like, what's the harm? What's the harm? Like, we just gonna do a little, it's nothing serious. Let's just go. It's a part of the event. Let's just go do it and do all the other events too. And so, yeah, again, it was Halloween. So they had they had other events. Like, they had like a haunted house, and then they had the psychic and all that stuff. So we did all the events. After doing that, things went from bad to worse. So I went from not sleeping to now I was still not sleeping, but now I would be sleeping and I would feel my bed shake at night, or I would feel like, something touching me that wasn't good. And again, I'd be in the room by myself and I'd feel my bed shaking. I just feel things would feel dark. I'd feel something like something touching me that shouldn't have been touching me, holding me down. Things started getting real, real dark. And then it got to the point where I would be in class and I would be taking an exam. And I remember this. I would be in class and I'd be taking an exam. As I was taking the exam, I heard a loud, crazy scream. And I heard it like it was right there in the room. Like, I heard the craziest scream I'd ever heard. And I looked up and I looked around, and everybody was quiet and everybody was still taking their test. No one heard it. I was the only one. And so I'm looking around, I'm like, oh my God, I'm the only one hearing this. And so at this point, I'm like, am I going crazy? Oh my God. Oh my God. Am I going crazy? I just heard that and nobody else did. And so at this point, I'm like, what is going on? And it just kept going worse. So at this point, I'm feeling like I'm going crazy. All these things is happening, and I'm like, I don't know what to do. I need help. And so I was advised to go to the doctor, right? I was advised go to the doctor and try to see what's going on and try to see if they can help you or they can, prescribe something. So I go to the doctor and I let them know this is what's going on. And they gave me some medication. I don't know what it was. I don't remember the name of it. But they gave me some medication and they were like, it should start working in a week. And so they said, if it, keep in contact. And they gave me their information. They gave me a whole portal where I could contact them directly, all this. And so I was like, okay. all right, I'm about to start taking some medicine for this. I'm about to start feeling better. Well, I go back to my to school. I start taking the medicine just like they prescribed, and nothing. It's not working. I'm like, okay, they said wait for some time. I'm gonna wait. And so I'm waiting and I'm waiting and I'm waiting, and I'm like, I'm still not sleeping. And I'm still, by the way, like all that crazy activity that was happening was still going on. I'm still hearing stuff, feeling stuff, like seeing stuff. I that nobody else is seeing. And the medicine is not working. People are giving me advice. It's not working. Like, I'm like, oh, Jesus. And at this point, it's been weeks and weeks. So at this point, I'm like, Jesus, if somebody help me, because I'm so exhausted. I remember my friend at the time, she like touched my shoulder just to kind of put her arm around me. We were walking around and she touched my shoulder, and just the lightest touch made my whole body like weak. My body sunk under the lightest touch because I was so tired. And so I was like, oh my God, oh my God. And so I'm starting to, freak out, like, what is going on? It got to the point where my mom, one day my mom called me and she was like, oh my gosh, I had this crazy dream about you. Now, let me back up. My mother has the gift of dreams. Like, she's dreamt things before and they've happened exactly like she's dreamt them. So when she has dreams, she doesn't take them lightly, because there are times where she's had dreams that have actually happened exactly like she dreamt them. So when she had a dream about me, and basically her dream was I was dead. She saw me dead in in my coffin, and she saw my spirit. And so she called me, and she, first of all, immediately after she had the dream, she got up because she knew it was from God. And she prayed for me till 5 a.m. And then she called me to kind of say, like, what's going on? I had this dream. And, she's heard my dad just was like, we're praying for you. Here's some prayer points. We want you to pray them. And so at this point, I'm really freaking out because I'm like, I feel like I'm going crazy. I'm tired. I feel like I'm living in a nightmare that I don't see how it's going to end, because the medication isn't working. The remedies online aren't working. Nothing is working. And now my mom is calling me, telling me that she saw me dead. Both of my parents are like going into prayer mode. What is actually going on? What is actually going on? After this time, I keep staying up. I'm still up. I'm still up. I'm still watching the wall every night, just like praying for sleep to come. It was the worst time of my life. It felt like I was in a living hell, and I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do anymore. And at that point, I actually started thinking, well, maybe suicide is a solution, because nothing else is working, because I can't find relief anywhere else. And so that actually start to become a real option for me, because I couldn't find relief anywhere else. One Sunday morning, I was laying in bed again, trying to make sleep come. And a friend of mine at the time, the same friend that told me, girl, don't go to the psychic, this same friend called me and was like, I think you should come to church with me today. And I was like, girl, no, I'm trying to sleep. So no, like, I'm not going nowhere. I'm tired. I want to sleep. And she was like, are you sure? I think you should come. And I was like, okay. I'll go. What's the harm? I'll go to church. I'll come back and I'll lay back in this bed again. And so I go to church. We sit down. We're hearing, we do the praise and worship thing. And then we get to the message. Now, during the message, the pastor's preaching. And in the middle of her sermon, the Holy Spirit interrupts her and she starts describing my situation. Like, she starts talking about somebody that can't sleep, is staring at the walls. Like, she starts describing my situation. And so I look over at my friend. I'm like, did you tell her? And my friend is like, no. And so again, I grew up in the church. I grew up in a Christian household. So I knew that was God. And so I was like, okay, after church today, they're going to pray for me. She's going to pray for me because I need something. So after church, I go to the pastor and I explain my situation to her and I tell her, hey, that person you were praying for, that you were prophesying, you had a prophetic word about in the middle of your sermon, that was me. And she's like, oh, really? Because she was like, okay. And so she's sitting and she's talking to me, just trying to figure out what was going on, because she was like, I don't know why the Lord gave me that word. People were looking at me like I was crazy, and they were looking at me like they could sleep. So I don't know why the Lord gave me that word. So she's trying to, kind of talk me through it. And then she's like, okay, let me pray for you. And then she starts to pray for me. And then as she's praying for me, she's in the middle of it, while she's praying for me, she calls the other pastor of the church, which is her husband. So both of the pastors come over and they're now praying for me. And as they're praying for me, I feel like I'm about to throw up. And so I'm like, what's going on? And so I open my mouth. And as I open my mouth, things start coming out, but I can't see them, but I can feel it. And now I know there were demons, but back then I didn't. But things that felt like demons were coming out of my, dark spirits. Just coming out of my mouth. I couldn't see them, but I felt like that's what it was. And they were just coming out of my mouth. And I was just sitting there with my mouth open and I just knew things were coming out. And I could feel that that's what it was. And so I'm like, oh my God. This is happening. I'm like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And then thinking, what is going on? What is going on? Because I've never had that kind of experience before. And so as they're praying over me, they continue praying over me. I fall on the floor and I am now sobbing because I'm like, what is happening? What is this? What is going on? And so they finish praying for me and they're like, okay, we're praying for you. Keep coming to church. Keep seeking God. Keep coming. And so after that whole thing, I feel better. And so I'm like, okay, I'm definitely going to sleep tonight. It's a wrap. I'm going to sleep tonight. It's done. Finally. Because there's no way I could have that dramatic of an experience and not be sleeping. Okay. And so that night I go to bed. I still don't sleep. And so at this point, I'm like, I break down because I'm like, what? How could I? After that, I'm still not sleeping? Are you kidding me? I'm like, I don't know what else to do. At this point, I'm looking to God. I'm like, I don't deserve this. I don't know what I have done that is, so wrong that I've done everything. I'm just trying to figure out. I'm praying, I'm crying, I'm a mess. As I'm crying out to God, I felt like he heard me that night, because as I'm crying, I feel this peace and comfort, and like he was, I don't know how to explain it. Like he was with me. Like he heard my cry, and as I feel this peace and comfort that he was with me. And that night I was able to sleep. But after that, I was still experiencing trouble sleeping. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to do what I know to do. The thing that made me feel good was going to church. And the pastors had told me, hey, like, keep coming to church. So I was like, that made me feel good. So I'm going to keep doing it. Like, I'm just going to keep going. So I start going to church. Like, I'm going to church. I'm going to the services. I'm going to the Bible study. I'm going to church because I'm just like, I need help. And at this point, I'm gonna go to the thing that made me, feel good. And so I go to church and I keep going to church, but I'm still having trouble sleeping. So one Sunday morning before church, I again hadn't slept. So I was, on the floor kind of sobbing because I was just like, I can't, it's been months and I cannot believe I'm still going through this. I had, some relief, but I was still having trouble. And so I was like, I just can't believe I'm still going through this. Like, I want freedom. I'd want to be free of this. I want to be done with this. So I'm just on the floor, just crying my eyes out. But when I'm done, I cry my I wipe my tears, and I'm like, okay, let me go to church. That's the one thing I know to do. Like, I don't know what else to do anymore. I've done everything that I could possibly do. Like, I don't know what else to do, so I'm gonna keep going. And so I went to church that morning, and during praise and worship, the pastor calls me, and she calls me up, and she's like, I want you to, sorry about that, you guys, my phone, the camera, it shut down for a little bit, so I had to go take care of that. But the pastor called me up front, and she called me up front, and they were singing "Here I Am" to worship. And so I can carry a note. So I'm thinking, okay, I must be called, she must be calling me because God had told her that I could sing. And so I'm thinking what else could it be? I'm thinking, why else would she call me, if not because God had told her I could sing. So I'm thinking this is my moment. And I started singing, and she's like, no, I need you to worship. And so I'm like, okay. And so I keep singing, but this time I just kind of like forget about everything else, and I just worship. I just press into the presence of God, and I forget about my voice. I forget all that. I'm singing to God. Now at this point, I'm bawling. I'm crying. Snot is coming out of my nose in front of everybody, and I don't care. I'm just worshiping. And so by the time I'm done, and by the time I'm done, the pastor gives me instruction, and she's like, go home and keep worshiping, keep praying, and keep spending time with God. And so I'm like, okay. And so, service is over, and I go home, and I'm like, that's what I keep doing. I keep worshiping, and I keep spending time with God. I keep reading my Bible. I keep praying. But now I'm like, worship is now a part of my like daily life. Worshiping, reading my word, praying, it's now a part of my daily life and my, daily like habits. And as I'm doing that, I get to a point where I am, because again, mind you, remember, I still have that medication from the doctor. And I got to the point where I was like, this is not even working. And so because I had been worshiping, and I started feeling really good in the presence of God, because the more I was worshiping, the more I felt the presence of God. And so I got to a place where I was like, okay, God, it's either you're going to heal me or it's done. There's nothing else that can happen, because the medicine wasn't working. Other people's advice wasn't working. Nothing else was working. So I was like, either you are going to heal me or that's it, you know? And so because the medicine wasn't working and I had been trying it for a while, I threw it away. And I do want to give this disclaimer just because I want to. Um, I believe in medicine. So please don't hear this as an opportunity for you to either do that or me saying that medicine doesn't work or anything like that. I believe that God can use medicine. I'm not somebody that doesn't believe that. Nor am I saying, hey, throw away your medicine today. And that's not what I'm saying. But this is a part of my testimony. And I wanted to tell the whole testimony. Okay. But I do believe that God uses medicine. I want to make that clear before I continue. I believe that God uses medicine to heal. Okay. So do not take this as me, this crazy person like coming online saying I threw away medication. I don't believe in medication. I do. Okay. I do. But this is my testimony. Um, and so, I, like I said, it wasn't working anyway. So I threw it away and I said, God, either you heal me completely or it's over. I'm at that place because what else can I do? You know? And so again, I keep spending time in the presence of God and worshiping, and being in God's presence was so comforting. Worshiping felt like home. Like being in God's presence, oh, I could cry. Being in God's presence and worshiping daily brought such peace. His presence brought such peace and a sound mind that that's all I wanted to do. I feel bad for my neighbors and my roommates sometimes because I just kept worshiping, because when the presence of God would fill up the atmosphere of my room, there was nothing like it. And so I just kept doing it. And of course, reading my word and going to church and going to all the activities. And just because I was just like, I was feeling myself being freer. And again, worship felt like home. Being in the presence of God felt like home. So wherever he was, I wanted to be. So much so, like, eventually at this church, like I joined the praise team at this church, and like I knew God's presence was home for me when I would even go to practice. And if I was like having a tough day because of the presence of God, and it wasn't like we were like being slain out in practice, we were just practicing. But because the presence of God was there and I could feel him, like I would feel him in my room, because I would just sense that he was there, I would feel such peace. So I knew, I was like, the presence of God is that's my jam. Like that's it for me. And I just kept doing that and just pressing into God's presence. And the more that I did that, I can't like tell you, pinpoint to you exactly when, but it's just I started feeling better. And before I knew it, like I would started sleeping, and then I started sleeping the whole night. And then I just started sleeping again. And then I realized, like, oh my God, like, whoo, God has healed me. I'm free. And after so long of wanting that and God setting me free, and to still be free today Anyway, I do want to say this. That's been years ago. So that happened, gosh, oh my gosh. It's been over 10 years. Like, I mean, I'm trying to like guess that it's been over 10 years ago that happened. Over 10 years ago. It's been a while, like a long, a long time. And whenever the enemy tries to come and to attack me in this area again, God is so good and God is so faithful, because now I know, and God will remind me like, hey, whom the Son sets free is free indeed. And I need you to say that, and I need you to speak the word. So that's like, God will remind me, I've set you free. You're free indeed. And so I repeat that word, continue to just press into his presence. The word says that to resist the enemy and he will flee in agony. And so I continue to speak the word and resist the enemy, and he does indeed flee. And good girl be sleeping. Hello, I be sleep, knocked out and alive and well, and God is just so good. So that is my story. That's my testimony. And if you're struggling with this, I want you to know that God loves you, and that healing, deliverance, what you've just heard, is absolutely possible for you too. This is not just a me thing. This is what God wants to do for you. The same God that has brought me peace and a sound mind and keeps me and has restored me and has healed me, where I don't take medicine to sleep. I go to sleep. I wake up in peace. Is the same God that will do it for you. And so I just speak that over you, and I speak that over your life, that you shall not die, but you shall live, and you shall declare the works of the Lord, and that you will lie down and sleep in peace, because he makes you dwell in safety. And when you lie down, you will not be afraid. And when you lie down, your sleep will be sweet. I declare that over you in Jesus' name. And so I just wanted to share that. And yeah, that's my testimony. If you've gone through this, or this resonated with you, I'd love to hear. Leave a comment if you're listening to this. If you're watching this on YouTube, leave a comment. I'd love to see your comment and pray and agree with you. Or if you are listening to this on the podcast, come on over to the YouTube channel. The link will be in the show notes, and just leave a comment. And share your story. And if you're not struggling with this, but you know somebody who is, and this will bless them, share this with them. And then if you see comments, you're not struggling with this, but you see comments, please pray for other people as well, because God is good, God is real, and this is possible for you too. All right, thank you so much for listening. As always, I love and I appreciate you. And if you enjoyed this, stick around and watch some more videos. And I can't wait to talk to you on the next episode.